City of Stevens Point Board of Park Commissioners meeting, recorded August 2nd, 2023.
All right, good evening, everybody. We'll go ahead and call the regular meeting of the Board of Parks Commissioners for August 2nd, 2023 to order. Director Kramer, would you mind calling the roll, please?
Breckman?
Here.
Disher?
Here.
Kladowski?
Here.
Alder Kiemer?
Here.
McDonald is excused. O'Connor?
Here.
Shabilsky?
Here.
Alder Short?
Here.
Sorensen?
Here.
Wynn?
Here.
Alder Zarazua?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Excellent. Thank you, Dan. We'll move quickly down into agenda item number 2, which is an approval of the June 7, 2023 meeting minutes.
Motion to approve as written.
I have a motion by Disher.
A second, but I have a correction.
Okay.
Just in the roll call, McDonald is spelled incorrectly. That's all.
Good observation.
Matt, you okay with your motion with that amendment as noted?
Yes, sir.
We have a motion with the recommendation for a spelling change and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, thank you, everybody. Moving down into agenda item number 3, which is the naming of a parcel, 2 parcels, as a Hall Nature Preserve in honor of Sue and Kent Hall. And Director Kramer, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, so this is a bittersweet item, as you can all imagine. I think everyone, it's hard to put into words the impact that Sue and Kent still has in the community and all the things that they've been involved with and done. And for the last several months, there's been a grassroots efforts, I'm going to call it, with people behind the scenes. I think it started with Mayor Nebo and all their contacting me saying, hey, what can we do? The mayor was involved in the periphery. There were several park commissioners. There's been a lot of support saying, let's find something that can really pay tribute to a lot of the things that Sue was interested in, Kent is still interested in, and really can help move the city, also pay tribute, and just really bring this full circle to do something good all around. So where the discussion kind of headed towards was there a place in town that could maybe be something that could be something with natural resources, but also be a space that's not just tucked away. And where we ultimately landed off of a lot of good ideas from that quadrant of the city was Alder Nebo had recommended, let's take a look at the old Bickford property, which is what is in your packet tonight. And in the packet, you'll see we've been working with the 2 children and talking about the sign so that we could get some feedback on what we would do to make sure that we did it in a very proper way, in a sensitive way that everyone felt good about. And this is where we've landed. And this would be a sign that would be made at Schmeekley, which is where Kent obviously spent his career working for the university, which is another great tie-in. And we believe that this 30 acres is something that this would preserve it from being developed. In addition, the property has wetlands on it. It has a lot of features that will protect the natural resources. So all around, ultimately, we felt this was a really great location, and it would expand Parkdale Park, so you'd have a bunch of additional acres that would go into that quadrant, and again, it would go into perpetuity. The sign would be in honor of both Kent and Sue, because again, both of them had such tremendous impact. So by policy, which was included in the packet, it talks about we would be putting an ad in the newspaper here next week that would just be making the community aware of it. And what I'm seeking approval of, and the committee, the group that worked on this is seeking approval of, is to formally make a recommendation to the Common Council to proceed with purchasing the sign, dedicating those 30 acres, and paying tribute into perpetuity for that location. And Alder Nebo is here tonight. She came along, so I think if you want to say something, Alder, for all of her efforts and her great leadership on this piece of the project.
Thank you. Yeah, Mary Nebo, District 7 Alder, 5718 Sandpiper Drive. Shortly after the city purchased the Bickford property, which is about a half a mile down from where I live, so I mean, this is literally my neighborhood, not only my district. Alder Johnson said, yeah, I used to hunt out there when it was a marsh. And I thought, ooh, a marsh. We could reclaim this as a birding area. Birders bring money. They travel, they spend money. And I thought immediately of naming it after Kent and Sue for all they've done for birding in Bird City and everything that Sue's done for the Park Commission too. So one of the first things, when Director Kramer got hired, the first thing I said when I walked in is, I have this idea about a reclaimed wetland. I'd like to see the College of Natural Resources get involved in this as well and let the students learn out there, create trails, bring back the wetlands, create some habitat, put in a community garden, whatever. But I think it's going to be a great addition to the city, and I think it's a great way to honor Kent and Sue. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Nebone.
So thank you. The actual action, and just so you know the location, so what we're proposing to do is there's already an existing trail in this location. We would be proposing to add another gravel trail that would cross over into the southwest quadrant of that parcel, the initial 10 acres, and we would do a real small clearing so that the sign could be put in. At that point, then, this would set itself up for future, as people are interested. If the university ever wanted to do a project, we could work with students. There'd be a lot of unique things that could happen in a similar capacity what was done in Kosciuszko Park with the Erickson Natural Area, which the Halls were also involved with. So this is kind of to start that process, essentially. So this is what we're kind of proposing. This would be something that would be performed by city staff, the Parks Department, and that's kind of what we're proposing right now.
Yes, I would like to have the honor of moving approval, since Kent and I were the two members of the biology department to come in 1968.
All right, we have a motion by Member Freckman, second by
I'd second.
Mike Gladowski. Are there any questions or comments?
I'd make comment. I think it's a great idea to honor a couple people who have given back an awful lot to Stevens Point. And we sure enjoyed having Sue on the park board for 19 years also. And she was always a positive influence here.
Any other comments or questions for either Alder Nebone or Director Kramer? Otherwise, I will be very happy to call the roll on this one. All right, hearing no more questions or comments, all those in favor of this motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. This is these are the fun things that we get to do on this board. So thank you to everybody for doing this.
One more thing I forgot to mention, Liz McDonald, who couldn't be at the meeting tonight, did contact me in advance to voice her overwhelming support for this item as well. So I wanted to make sure I mentioned that as well. Great.
So it was fully unanimous.
It was, yes.
Excellent. All right, thank you, everybody. We'll move down to agenda item number 4, which is, yet another exciting agenda item, the renaming Emerson Park parcel to Saramer Park in honor of John C. Saramer family and their gift to the Emerson Park project. So, Dan, I'll again turn it back over to you, and I know there are others here that can talk on behalf of the project.
Yeah, again, what a tremendous amount of support in our community. The Parks Department, one of the best parts of my job is getting to see a group of volunteers come together with a vision and then watch them just make it happen. Really, this is one of those things where I get to kind of stand on the sidelines and I provide a little bit of help when they need something. But really, this goes to the Friends of Emerson Park. Ginger Keemer, we have Melissa Johnson here as well. There's several others, John O'Connick. There's many members that have played such a role in getting this item to where it is. So the background of what's actually before the committee here today is, as you recall, the site plan for what is currently the Emerson site has 3 phases. And phase 1 has been completed with the playground and really kind of clearing of the site. Phase 2 is the basketball court that just went in with the cornhole goals and some of the sidewalk network. And what was left was phase 3, which is really a open air pavilion and a flush toilet restroom. In the meantime, as phase 2 was taking shape, the Friends continued, from the get-go of this project to have their meetings, to keep drumming up support, having interest, and ultimately a meeting was had with the Saramer family to start talking about opportunities and their involvement. And they have been involved in phase 2, or I should say phase 1, and have been watching the project. The biographical information is in here on John C. Saramer and his family. Ultimately, this is a family that has employed many folks in our community, had a big impact, and they were looking to support a project. They saw a lot of the community rallying around in a site not too far from where the bank in today's currently sits downtown. So ultimately, where the conversation went to was, could this work? How would it work? What would it entail? And I'll give the Friends group that was involved with this a lot of credit. There was a lot of, conversation of how can it work? What would it, how would this end up, working for both sides? And I think where we are today is the recommendation is that in exchange for the largest gift in our Parks Department's history, a substantial gift this time and already. This $500,000 is what this phase would be, totaling it up over about $660 total in the project. They would make that gift in exchange for renaming of the parcel to Saramer Park. It is consistent with all of the naming inside of our policy. This is, again, a family that has had deep roots in the community, continues to, and has employed, significant amounts of folks in our community, and honestly came to the table with the best of intentions in these conversations. And really, I think I speak fairly saying they were very open. I thought about a lot of different things, talked about it really and wanting to honor the legacy of what's been done already too. So what the Friends ultimately worked out with the family and with the recommendation tonight is that if the Park Commission would consider this action, there would still be a legacy or a historical marker inside this project. Exact remnants of what it is has not been worked out. We'll work that out, but that will pay tribute and talk and tell about the story of what the Emerson parcel is and Emerson School and things of that nature. So one of the components is that it would still honor that piece, but then the actual naming of the park itself would go to the Saramer Park. So at this point, again, I can't say enough kudos to all of those involved, all of the volunteers, their work, their sensitivity to how important this is to our community, as well as honoring the wishes of a really philanthropic family that wants to be a part of our park system. Staff feels very comfortable with this. We believe this is substantial enough that it makes a lot of sense for our community. And we think that I believe the Friends have done everything they can to try to make sure we honor each piece of it. Staff recommends that we would move forward and accept this renaming and allow the gift to move forward. If that happens, the renaming would happen pending council approval. We would accept public feedback between now and that action, and then this project, phase 3, would happen over the winter into the spring. We'd be cutting a ribbon sometime next year, and a pretty exciting project all the way around. Melissa Johnson is here. I don't know if you'd like to say a few words or mention about the Friends side as well. And I can definitely take any questions related to the project or staff side as well.
I think it was, who said it was Mr. T? I love it when a plan comes together or something like that. But this goes back even farther, and I want to honor a couple of people who kind of kept the light on, and that was Cindy Nabel and Darlene Sprita. They, all the way back right after the building was demolished, the little garden that sits at the corner on the northwest corner, they would be there diligently weeding and planting things and just kind of hoping that one day that would become something else. And they met a lot. There was a group of people, part of OMNA, so the Old Main Neighborhood Association. So it was they planted the seeds. And we shouldn't lose sight of that. And so the Friends of Emerson Park has done a lot. But without those early seed plantings, figuratively and literally, this might not have happened. I also want to give public thanks to Mike Bialis. Mike, right after I was appointed to Common Council back in, was it 2015 or 16, he was the first constituent to call me and said, what are you going to do with Emerson Park? I'm like, I have no idea. I just got the job. Give me a break, And soon we were in the basement, the brew house. Some of you may know it, at the university, the cheapest beer in town, but it's also a nice place to hang out. Mike and Garrett Ryan and I started coming up with this idea. And we knew that we wouldn't be able to do it alone. I think it was truly, truly, truly an amazing community. From the first time we were at Jefferson School Library, and we had, I don't know, what did we have, 30, 40 people? All neighbors. And community development gave us a bunch of air photos of the site, and we had them plastered all over the room, and of course the classic sticky notes. What do you want here, neighbors? What is this going to look like? And the neighbors came together and said, this is what we want. And from there, we started to get busy. We worked with the outdoor recreation program at UWSP, who gave us kind of our preliminary design. One day when I was leaving, I was leaving Plan Commission, and Ross Rettler was here, and I thought, I'm gonna go. I cornered Ross. I said, hi, Ross. Have you heard of this great project called Emerson Park? We've come together. It's been an amazing thing, and I just rode past, and it's full. Every day, till late at night. You can hear the balls bouncing when you can't even see anybody on the court. So Ginger, Danielle, Mike, it's just been an amazing group. Baker Street Consulting, Janet Finn, John, Wayne, you were part of the group early on. Your job pulled you away, you got busy. What an amazing group of people. From those little seeds to this. We can do things. We can do great things as a community. Thank you, everybody.
I guess I have a question, whether Melissa, Alder Kiemer, Director Kramer, walk us through the legacy signage, kind of talk about what that process might look like, where it could potentially go, I mean, and who is going to be involved in creating that? Because I think the Emerson, this is an amazing gift. Let me stop there. Having had the pleasure of being on that steering committee for several months, this is really exciting to see that phase come to reality. But I also think there are some folks that have a lot of allegiance to the word Emerson. So we want to make sure that is, kind of walk us through what that process is going to look like to make sure that we honor both the amazing gift of the Saramer family, but also make sure that we're recognizing the history of that property. So I guess I'll open it up to anybody. Yeah, please.
Sure. I still have to find the rock. I haven't done that yet. Couple of things. There was a rock there. Not a rock, a big boulder. And it was dedicated by the retired teachers. It was about Emerson Park. That, I believe, is with the school district. That is going to come back. And so that, I know it seems silly. It's just a great big granite rock, stands about this high, but it means a lot to people. People put money into it. And then we were very cognizant of the fact that there's an attachment. People don't like change, as we all know. Attachment to Emerson School. I attended my first junior high school dance in the basement of Emerson School. Scared like crazy. So I have memories. A lot of people have memories. So we are going to honor that, and why would we not? This is what launched us on that path. Some of the remnants are still there. And whether, I believe it's going to be a plaque or some sort of something on the south-facing wall?
Yes.
Yep. South-facing wall of the multipurpose facility that will be some sort of honor to everyone who taught there, everyone who attended, and everyone who has loved Emerson Park. Yeah. No, we don't want to forget that. History's really important. We shouldn't wallow in it. We should learn from it and use it to launch ourselves forward. I agree, Wayne. Yeah. Did you want to add anything, Ginger?
Yeah, so I think getting that, we've been calling it a cornerstone from the old school. And if you look at historic photos of the old Emerson, what was originally Emerson High School along East Ave, you can see where that stone was in some of the archival photos, kind of near the corner of Clark and East, I believe, kind of where Cindy Naples, we call it Cindy's Garden.
Yeah, Cindy's Garden.
Is because she put so much love and work into that. So that was, I think, an idea that Melissa, Danielle, and I all had, is let's get that cornerstone back. Cindy's been wanting it back for 5 or 6 years.
Yep.
So we can hopefully finally do that. And then we do have a potential donor who we've approached about designing in kind, either doing the construction, the design, or providing materials in kind for that signage. That's not official yet, but we have approached a donor to contribute that. The Friends certainly have funds set aside for building that memorial, regardless of donations. But again, the alumni and former teachers of that school were our earliest supporters when it came to building this campaign, and we've been hugely responsive, and we wanted to be sure to recognize their efforts and their passion and the legacy of that ground. There was a school on that site for over 100 years, from the 1890s until it was the last school building was torn down in 2002. So it has been public land, community land for over a century. So I think it's important to recognize that past. But again, what the sign actually looks like,
right.
Whether it's placed on East Ave or part of the larger sign in the pavilion, those are all details that still need to be worked out. So.
And play is really learning. So the learning continues in a different form, and you see it every day as families and children. It's really, when I saw, you work on things and you're never quite sure how it's going to turn out. It could be a flop. It could turn out. And when I was driving down Clark Street and the playground was up, I think I was going to Target or Fleet Farm, and I cried all the way. I felt like I'd given birth. We had worked so hard. We had worked so hard, sitting at Jim Radford's house, enjoying his hospitality, and more importantly, his wise counsel on moving us from fundraising to philanthropy. It's a lesson, really, it's subtle but important. We weren't selling pizzas. We were working to gain something from the generosity of our philanthropic community. And he was right. And he led us down that path. And it's just, God, it's good. It's just good. So much bad in the world. This is good. So, thanks.
I'll just add one more thing.
Well, I have a question. I hope it's not something bad in the world. But just wondering within the policy, because it addresses directly the renaming, and it says, in order for a park or facility to be considered for renaming, the following must occur. The recommended name must qualify according to Section 6, and then it must be accompanied by a petition from the particular park or facility users.
The petition is in the packet from the Friends of Emerson.
Oh, I guess I didn't realize that counted as.
So the petition ultimately just states that they're seeking the reapproval based on that portion of it. So that's what we put in there as part of the piece of it. And then the other element that's not in that section is the newspaper element. So that's set to run on the 11th if there's a recommendation tonight.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Other questions for anybody from the Friends group or Director Kramer?
I was just going to mention one more thing. So given the high, obviously, visibility of this project, typically something like this historic marker is very similar to a naming. So while that gets worked on, what would happen usually in these cases is, and that would just be come back. It would be shown to you just to see it. Because as you can imagine, they'll have lots of people working on it. So ultimately, what the staff is recommending tonight is the renaming with that condition, is that we're going to do that historic marker, and then I would just offer to the commission, just like we do on all these things that become permanent fixtures, we would just bring it to you and say, hey, this is what they're planning when they get it identified. And that also allows public awareness to be made to it, just like they'll do anyways, but it would give public awareness if somebody saw something and say, well, what about that, before it's kind of constructed. So just know that while we're working on that piece, and staff has been active, the Friends have been great about saying, hey, city staff, what do you think? We certainly could bring that back at that time. One other element of the gift, so you know, these are just preliminary, right? So it is in a historic district, so there'll be some review by some of the staff and liaisons down at the zoning office. In addition, there's some park lighting, I'm going to call it accessory lighting, that would be in this location, that would be part of this too. So it's more than just the open air pavilion and the restroom. The plaque on the back, that would maybe tell some history, the donor levels, there's some other components. So this really does, it's such a great culmination of years and years and years of blood, sweat, and tears by all those volunteers. So as director, I'm very happy to recommend that this would be approved and to bring the Saramers in as a permanent partner of this project.
I'll make a motion to approve. Okay, we got a motion from Matt Disher. Is there a second?
Second.
Oh, it was close enough. Well, Carrie win. Sorry, hand go up first. Not that it's a competition or anything. All right, are there any additional questions or comments? Otherwise, we had a motion and a second to approve this item as recommended by staff and with feedback from the committee. So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you very much. And congratulations, this is an exciting thing to see happen. All right, agenda item number 5, approval of Parks, Recreation, and Forestry proposed policy regarding alcohol requests in Gerke Park. Director Kramer.
So this is just a first shot at the policy. I think it was last month or the month before we talked about that. We've had some more reoccurring where people are like, Spud Bowl, the youth fast pitch tournament, the bouts for the roller derby, that we've been kind of doing the same thing over and over. So essentially what I just did here is broke a policy out stating that, new requests, returning requests, both of them still require the council and the clerk's office to approve of the alcohol licensing. They have to follow state and local laws. So that doesn't change any process. This just comes to, based on that recommendation for that night, saying that as director and as our staff, we could administratively approve the reoccurring. This is just my attempt at it. I will take any feedback at all, and happy to edit it in any way the board would like to see it edited if you'd like to see something added or changed. To summarize it, ultimately, what it states is new requests fill out our entire paperwork. They give all the details, when it starts, when it ends. A lot of times they're special event applications, and that full application comes before the Park Commission as step one. Then it goes on to the General Policy and General Government Committee. Then it rolls on to Council. Ultimately, what would happen is I'll use the most recent example, Point Fast Pitch. They do the same tournament. It's the same 2 days, the same weekend of every year. They come back next year, say we're going to put the tent in the same location. We're going to sell the beer in the same capacity. We've already filled out the application downtown. I would then say this has been approved by the Park Commission in the past. You don't have to come before this committee. That's how it's set up today, and this is the way it's written now.
Sean, you had a question?
My only question was there a reason to limit it to Gerke when writing this, or was it just that's where the vast majority of that occurs?
Gerke's actually the only park we don't allow alcohol by ordinance.
Okay.
So that's the only reason. So the other parks, when they fill out a special event application, it's approved by this board already by our ordinances. They just then have to have their special event approved by the council. So this is the only location. The reason that's the only one that's been coming is because of the ordinance. So they're essentially getting a waiver to that ordinance by going through the General Government and Policy Committee and on the council. It's that single event that they can do that.
If there is a problem, if somebody complains, you would have the authority not approve it anyway, right?
Yeah, correct. And ultimately, that's how the consequences are. Say somebody, they have something goes wrong. We basically say you change this piece of it or it's not approved. Yep, be very similar to them.
Well, I'd move to approve.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Is there a second? I saw like 3 heads. We'll go with Sean Shabisky. All right, any other questions or comments?
I guess this question just occurred to me. You mentioned that Gerke is the only one that needs this approval. With Zenoff Park and sales at the concessions, is that like a whole different kind of outline of procedures?
Yeah, so Zenoff, there's an alcohol license issued to the location to the Stevens Point Softball Association, the SPSA. So Zenoff, alcohol can be consumed, and you can possess it if it's purchased from the concession stand, who's the licensed premise for that address. Flip side, let's say Piffner Park, for example. Piffner Park, different folks sell different weekends or different weeks because they get a temporary license for their event, and there's not a premise license. And the clerk will explain this better, but there's not a premise license to one like a bar establishment.
Got it.
Versus like the SPSA at Zenoff is given the premise license. I'm stating this correctly, right?
And that's because we have a premise license because of the contract we have with the city to run the concessions at that facility. So then that gives us I don't know if the authority is the right word, but to be able to get a liquor license.
And are you the only organization that uses that concession?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, great.
So, Dan, as we were talking before, I guess I've got a couple of questions in terms of how we are actually going to define a returning request. Because you could very easily either have the name of the tournament and the name of the organization, or I guess what I want to get some clarity on is how do we consider local approval at the director level for a returning request without, and what happens if somebody comes in and it's the same tournament, it's the same organization, but it's what they're selling is different, where they're located is different. So how do we define what a reoccurring event is that would be local versus changes that might happen to an annual event that really should warrant a little bit deeper approval?
So based on how this is written now, it's very discretionary. So it's a fair point, right? Ultimately, what I would be looking at is, are they checking on the special event application, returning or not? Because there is a box for that. And then we would be looking at, is it the same time frame, as the event changed? So, but the way it's written today, it would be ultimately staff discretion. So the only alternative, if the board would like to see it more defined, you certainly could add a piece that says same amount of days, same selling location or something if you wanted it that restrictful. Then I would have the actual exact definition. Otherwise, what I would be using is discretion based on the application and the one prior.
Okay, thank you. Other questions? Comments?
Who was the second? I apologize.
I don't know if we got to a second. Was it Mike?
No, I moved to approve it.
Yeah,
No,
go ahead.
I think Sean.
I missed that part.
There were a bunch of us.
We all tried.
It was like you practiced that. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Is there any more questions or discussion? Otherwise, all those in favor of the proposed as presented signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. All All right, thank you, everybody. Down to the next agenda item, which I believe is a director's report.
Okay, so I appreciate the board allowing us not to meet in July. It was the day after our 39th annual Riverfront Rendezvous. I do want to let you know that the Park Rec and Forestry staff, my team, did an outstanding job again. We had really great weather, but we were up against the largest event, I think, in Stevens Point history. We ended up being down 8% in overall beer sales or alcohol sales, which is one of the big things we sell, and that's compared to the 2 years coming off COVID. Overall, we were right in average alignment what we've done before. So the event did finish in the black, which is great. There's a lot of years it does not. I'd like to tell you we're 4 years in a row. So since not just me, this is my team, but since I've been here and been involved, we've been in the black every year, which is great. So overall, we had over 18 musical performances that were free to the public. We had more food vendors than we've ever had, and the food vendors themselves, multiple not-for-profits. This event helps so many individuals. The Crystallized Figure Skating Club is their biggest fundraiser for the year. The Ice Hawks, it's their biggest fundraiser for the year because of the different components. They volunteer at the event and they get compensated for their time. So it's a really unique event. If you go down there, we have drone pictures and stuff. I was going to show. It's just hard to do it in the setting, but the amount of people that come to that event is really awesome. So I really like to say it's the department's pride and joy. It's the biggest thing we do, and it touches every person on our staff. I've got a staff photo of all of us standing in our shirts. I think there's like 52 people we have in our team that's standing there. So can't say enough good work about all the people that are with me that helped get that done. It's a marathon being down there for 3 straight days, but again, there's a lot of smiling faces on kids and families' faces that get to go down there. So next year's the 40th. There's not many communities that can say 40 years they've done something, anything. I mean, and you think about an event on a 4th of July holiday that you compete with a lot of other areas and communities. We're going to the 40th year of the event. I also can tell you not a single ticket issued. We had no disturbances, no fights, no nothing, and that's going on well over a decade. I really believe the way we time things, the way we do and transition the crowd with family events into more of the crowds at night and stuff that are around more of the faster paced music, we've really gotten it down to a science where people really have a good time. It's really a family celebration. So, it's a great thing. Again, kudos to my team for all the work that they do in that. The other 2 things I just want to make you aware of is the KB Willett and Community Stadium project. We are really in the midst of construction on the team room. If you get time to drive by, go up in the parking lot, take a look down. There's a large hole that was dug, but they actually just started pouring the walls for the foundation of the basement. So it's starting to take shape where you can kind of see what it's going to be. Football season will kick off in 2 weeks, hard to believe, for scrimmages. So we will not have that done for that. We actually, just before this meeting, I met with all the athletic directors and the coaches for the teams, and we went over kind of how that's all going to work. You'll see some temporary fencing, and people will be walking the track and stuff to get to concessions. So again, can't speak highly enough of Scott and Ann and all of their team. We're making all the modifications to get people where they have to be for that weekend and keep it safe so that they can still be there for all the athletic contests. We have, it's the busiest schedule I think we've ever had. So in addition to all the high schools and lacrosse and all the extra sports, there's not, I don't think a single night there's not an activity there basically all fall because of what's going on. So that track is, or the field is getting used in the capacity we thought it was, and our student athletes are there, which is what we wanted. On the bandshell project too, as you saw, if you were there at Riverfront or if you've been to Levitt lately, it's been repainted, the beam has been fixed, we were able to put the new roof on, we're finally have that project where that bandshell's in great shape. So we are doing a small tuck pointing on the front because the project came in under budget, so we're able to fix a few of the things that were lingering, so we'll have that project completely done before we head in the spring, and not a single event got displaced. So kudos to Ellis Construction, they were able to work around all of the summer events, and there's a lot of them down there that we were able to get that done. So busy time construction-wise, and obviously we've got some great things on the horizon here with more volunteers, great efforts. So while we've been doing a lot of construction, we have a lot more coming, and I think it's all great things, and a lot of positive buzz around all of the volunteers, and I appreciate all the support from the Park Commission too that we're able to keep rolling forward. So that's what I have for today.
Thanks, Dan. Any questions for Director Kramer? All right, thank you, everybody. We are down to agenda item number 7, which is an adjournment. I will welcome a motion to adjourn.
I never do, but I will today. As my last meeting, I will move to adjourn.
In honor of my colleague, I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those interested in leaving signify by saying aye. Aye. All right, I'm not even going to ask for opposed. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.
A video of this meeting is available for viewing on the city's website, stevenspoint.com/videos.